just a few seconds. So we're going to call the meeting to order. At present, we have everybody here except Lou.
And I'm not sure Lou is here, Danny is going to be gone in a few days, so.
Okay, so we have all of us but Lou. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
No additions, I think we have a long enough agenda as it is.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Deb, to adopt the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, I don't see any problems. Okay.
Correct.
We now have public comment. And so public comment, the floor is open, and we have 5 minutes to talk. I think we have a presenter from the SCOUT program, Larry Carlson. Larry, come right down here by the microphone. Oh, I'll go up one row, you're good. It's a new process, right?
Just come right to the mic.
And you can have a seat right there if you like.
My name is Larry Carlson, and I'm presenting an Eagle Scout project that will help this community. It's by getting 2 new dugouts, like the same as the JV field over there. It's going to be the visiting dugouts, so it'll be probably 8, 24 pair for the length, 8 for the width, 9 for the height. So it'll be like a floating slab cement, so there won't be a lot of digging on it. So I'll be trying to keep it the same as possible. Project will give all baseball teams from youth, from 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. Too bad I'm in the 9th grade, so I won't get to use it, but including my brother's grade, we get to use it. Right now, cost approximately about $3,000 to $3,600 for the cost probably. And I'll have at least 2 licensed contractors helping me as I try and coordinate this project. I'll likely get the deadline by probably before school starts, September 1st. And I've talked to the athletics director, I've talked to all the baseball coaches, I've talked to the groundskeeper, superintendent, elementary principal, and they all like the idea. And I'll keep helping bring the community forward.
Okay. Looks like a really good project. We're in public comment, but I think you're looking for permission from us.
Well, I guess I think it's more
Can we-
informational than anything else. It certainly has gone by myself, the activities director, also baseball coaches. They all think it's a good idea. I don't think it's something that the board needs to take action on.
Okay.
We just wanted the board to be aware of the great project that he is doing.
Good job.
Sounds good, Larry.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other public comment? Okay, if none, we need to approve and correct minutes from the May 20th, 2014 regular board meeting. Any corrections or additions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by David to approve the minutes, a second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, first item of business. We have public comment at every section of public business. We have a lot of public business to go over tonight. So if you want to comment and we miss you, because they get intense sometimes, wave your hands or whatever to make sure we get you in. Okay? Number 1, we review and consider approval of providing a letter of support and confirmation that the district will agree to be the sponsoring local education agency for the Project Aware and School Climate Transformation grants.
And Don will be presenting some information. I had kind of let the board know that we were looking at a grant for mental health. This is much more information concerning that grant that we're looking at.
You have a outline sheet that is basically the same thing, with a little bit more information that I'm going to present tonight. I did this for a group of people yesterday, so I'm just going to if you're comfortable there, or if you'd like to switch it out, we can most certainly do that. There are 2 federal grants that Jen Wers and I have been working on. We went to Bob and asked, hey, can we try to do this? It's money that's going to come into the district. It is not to supplant or replace this program we already have, but it is to supplement. And it is through the initiative by the Obama administration that now is the time. Again, today, as I was getting ready to come here, there was a school shooting. Okay? Mental health issues are usually related to it, and that's kind of what spurred now is the time. The 2 grants that we're applying for are the one that's called Project Aware, which is a mental health grant that we can get $50,000 per year for 2 years, and it's very specific as far as what the usage is. But one of the cool things about it is no matching funds needed. The other one is, and we have to apply for them in conjunction with each other, is the Department of Education's School Climate Transformation Grant, which the average award is $100,000 a year, as it says there, for up to 5 years. We're asking for about $200,000. When I looked at the budget today, it was $207,000, which is very much, that one we have more flexibility in what we would be able to do with it. The key aspects to both of the grants, there are no matching funds needed, which very seldom happens with the federal grant. We need to apply for both to be eligible for either one of them. One has its deadline Monday the 16th. That's the first one, and the other one has its deadline Monday the 23rd of June. So they will be going in very soon. We've been putting, since school got out, putting in a lot of time in getting these done. It's a competitive grant. For each one of them, they're giving approximately 100 of them away across the nation based on meeting the particulars to it. And I don't see a downside to it. School-age children and their families, making sure with the mental health one that we're able to address the mental health needs of our students at an early stage, rather than finding out when we had the school shooting that it was somebody that should have gotten into some help or a program, and reducing violence and bullying in the school setting. We already have the legislation that says we have to have a school bullying policy that is put in place and meets certain requirements. This would cover that for us as well as everything else. So that's kind of both grants together. When we looked at it, there's needs in our community. There are so many services that are out there that we don't know about. As we've been researching this, we were like, oh, that's what that building is? And Jen and I are fairly together. I figure if we're looking for stuff, and we have problems finding it, our families are going to have trouble finding it, our kids are going to have a problem finding it. Many people would like to help, but we don't know what to do. We feel like we're handcuffed. And there's still the stigmas that are associated with saying we've got safety issues. You know, we make that comment, oh, boys will be boys, or it's just part of growing up, or I don't have a mental health problem. You know, if I tell anybody about that, what are they going to think of me? And this kind of will help with that. And we've got others with lots of question marks because of the fact that there's probably stuff that we haven't thought of, and if the grant comes about, we'll be able to address them, look at them, and see how we can tweak things within it. So if we look at them, and there's a lot of stuff up there, if we look at them in the particulars, Project Aware is a Health and Human Services grant. It is the mental health grant. That's the one that's worth $50,000 for each year for 2 years. In it, we've got the supporting letters and collaborative letters from the City of Paynesville and the Police Department. Those were the ones that were required. We have, right now, I think on my computer to be sent in, we have about 7 or 8 more from our mental health services that are provided within our community, from some people at the hospital, from individuals. We're looking at some of our state legislators. We've got from West Central Ed District is behind us. We've got the Stearns County Mental Health Organization is behind us. And they're saying, go for it, do it. You know, if all we've got to do at this point is say that we're going to support you, fine. Our commitment in this grant is we have to have a program director that will also be a trained instructor in youth mental health first aid. And the best way for me to kind of give us an idea of that is, if you think about first aid, Red Cross first aid, we've all got it. We're not going to solve all the problems that are going to show up at the hospital, but if we're able to do some of that initial care and that initial treatment, we're going to have a lot better system all the way through. So that's the same thing with youth mental health first aid, where it's training people to identify, know that we're going to have to listen non-judgmentally, offer that network of services, because people don't know where to get it, and help with that. So that program director, grant administrator would be a trained instructor. They'd have some various duties. That money is paid for out of the grant, so it's not saying, hey, we're going to put something else in, we need school money to do it. It's right within the grant for the first 2 years. Then we also have 5 other instructors. We're looking at 3 or 4 of them being school-based personnel, the other ones being out in the community, police officers, possible fire department, those types of things. And then our commitment over 2 years is getting 250 people in our area trained. And when we have the instructors, it's not going to be that difficult. We have to have a sustainability of the program. Haven't had a chance to talk to Matt, so you might be surprised that it says community education is going to help, but we're writing it in there. But it seems like a perfect match that we can look at, that once we have the instructors trained, we offer it as part of our community ed. And people look at it and say, hey, I'm taking first aid plus, I'm taking CPR. This sounds like something that's going to be good. And when we put it out there and look at it, we're going to be able to sustain it fairly easily. And the really nice thing about this is we could become a model for rural communities, because St. Cloud's applying for it. I know somebody from Minneapolis is applying for it. I've got a firm that said, hey, did you know that Chicago Public Schools are applying for it? I'm like, that's not much money for them, but okay. But the one thing, and I should credit my sister with giving me the information on this. I would have known nothing about it had she not said, hey, you should try this. But she said a lot of times if you become that pilot program, the extension is there beyond the 2 years. So that's the one we got most excited about to start out with. And then as we delved in further, the School Climate and Transformation Grant came up. Here, positive behaviors and strategies for teachers and students to deal with bullying and violence in school-age children and the community as a whole. It's got to be multi-tiered, so it's not just, this is the only thing we're going to do. And we're looking at some things like getting a resource officer, used to be called police liaison officer. When I first came here 14 years ago, we had one. And nobody seems to remember at what point that disappeared. But it's really a little bit frustrating when we've got our elementary kids that are out in the playground before school, and the police officer's car is parked in the parking lot, and the kids come up to the playground supervisor and go, who's in trouble? The cop's here. So we don't have that good image that's there. And just having them in the school, it's proven to be beneficial. Looking at PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, that is supported very highly through MDE. There are, I think the statistic I found this afternoon was, right now there are like 437 schools, not districts, in the state that are using PBIS. And it can be, most schools start out in elementary, but it can be a school-wide program. So rather than it being punishment or punitive, looking at this is the way to get the behavior, encouraging that positive behavior. And the old statement, you can catch more flies with honey. Rad Kids, or a program that's similar, is looking at empowering children and their families to protect themselves from violence. It started out as a rape prevention program, but it has expanded much, much more. And then we have RTI. I'm not sure that we use it to our fullest potential. So those would be the big things that we're looking at there. As I said, right now the budget's looking like, for this one, about $207,000. And you get it for the 1 year, and then after that, if you show that you've implemented it with fidelity, it's up for renewal for up to 5 years. We have more flexibility in how the funding would be used here. We could enhance some of the programs that we have. So we do have RTI, but we could expand it. We haven't had anybody that's gone to RTI training for
4 years.
4 years? Okay, 4 years. It's fairly expensive. We're looking at it that we've got the above the line program for the 6th graders. We've got the top 20 teams in high school. We've got 1 or 2 people that are trained in that we could expand it. Okay. What are we asking from you? It has to be the school district that is the sponsoring LEA, which is local education agency. And what would happen if we get this grant, or I've been saying when, so when we get these grants is going to be that all the information that comes from the federal government is going to come to the school, which is the logical spot for it. Once the grant's received, it's a contact site. We would be responsible for the hiring or assigning of the grant administrator or coordinator, paid for with the grant, but running through payroll and those types of things. The reporting organization, it would be the responsibility of that project coordinator to do the reporting, but it comes through us and it's sent in through the school. And then ensuring the sustainability of the program, looking at it and saying, how are we going to do this? When we get, the biggest cost of this is going to be a lot of the training. And once we get the training taken care of, we'll have enough people that if Mark is trained in it and he ends up deciding he doesn't want to do it or moving from the community, we still have enough people that can go forward with it. And then the banking and the accounting aspects of it, because if we're going to get, $257,000 every year for the next 2 years, we're going to be very pleased with that and don't want to run that through just anybody's checkbook. All right, next one. We have a partnership, we've got letters of support and collaboration. The two that we had to have to even qualify for the grant were the City of Paynesville and the Police Department. We have those, plus several others that are available. We are going to need help with those partnerships, people identifying people and individuals and the organizations that are willing and able. And willing and able is really important, because if I say, yeah, I'll get trained, but oh, I don't want to ever have to give CPR. Or I get trained as a trainer or an instructor, but oh, I'm too busy to do it when it's scheduled. That, eliminates the purpose behind it. Providing information about the resources that are currently available. One of the big things with the mental health aspect is putting it together in a database, and everybody that gets trained is going to have that information. We'll put it out to the public and making sure. We came up with a kind of cool name, Circle. And when I was in Fargo this weekend, my sister said, you have to identify Minnesota, because we started out with Circle, Paynesville area. Circle stands for Circle of Impact, and it's in the letter that you have. Circle of Impact for Rural Children's Learning and Education. And that was a brainstorming day. And then the sustainability. And that's what we're doing. We needed everybody to kind of be up to speed with where it is, because I'm going to hopefully hit the submit button on the first one that we have to turn in on the 14th. The other thing that I do need from you, and it's kind of tonight, is a letter. I wrote it so that we didn't have to have anybody come up with it. And it's saying two things. Number one, that we're willing to support this program, the fact that we're applying for the grants, and I think it's in each of your, each one or,
They each have a copy of it, and Bruce has the latest folder that can be
Right.
signed by everyone.
I left enough space so that we can put the school letterhead there. We do not need it in an original school letterhead with original signatures, because everything is submitted digitally. So we'll do that transfer over. But in here it says that, first of all, as a school board, you're an elected group, you're willing to support this, and you're making the commitment that we will be the sponsoring local education agency. I think the last one says questions, comments, or concerns. So both Jen and I, if you have any questions, we're excited about it. I think that our phrase from last week has been excited, encouraged, and scared to death. Because, you do one thing and find out they have to do 3 others to get there. And the number of hoops that we had to jump through to be able to get this has been interesting. Bob is listed as our point of contact for the district, because it was the chief administrating officer, so that's where we're going with that. Tomorrow he and I might be sitting and playing on the computer a lot, because we have to figure out where their approval of me being the authorized organizational representative to be able to hit send is. That was supposed to come in on Friday or Monday, but we're well on our way.
Is there a special reason you left Mark off with the
Always a good reason.
You know what? Because it went on
He's the
page,
treasurer?
it went on page 2.
Oh, when on page 2, okay.
So I will go over there. And I read it off over there and I just hit 1 of 1.
No, that's okay, I just
No,
didn't know.
no,
'cause I
we
know
need
that-
everybody on
I
there.
didn't know if it was because he
No,
was the
thank you very
finance
much.
person or what.
And having the treasurer, it's on page 2 and I hit 1 of 1 because on my.
figured.
So, are you looking for a motion, Bob, or looking for a motion to approve
I think
the
it would be
letter?
nice to have a motion by the board to just.
We have a motion by Deb, we
Second.
have a second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Thank you
I
very
will
much.
run one copy off with Mark's name on, because page 2, and I cheat on my margins a little bit, because they think I left enough up there on it.
I think you did. Maybe you can get 4 signatures on one of the lines and 3 on the other. Just working together a little bit.
Is it possible to get the PowerPoint emailed?
Yep,
I'd like to have one.
Not a problem.
Anybody else on the board?
I will,
Yes, I would also.
If you get it to me, I'll just send it out to all of them and they can.
tomorrow I'll take the flash drive
Yeah.
with it.
Just sometimes when we're looking at it from the side, they
Yep.
think these guys down here, and maybe couldn't see it as well, and
Yep,
then we
not a
have
problem.
something to look at.
I'll grab my flash drive. I will run one copy quick and bring that back, and then we're gonna go write some more.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks.
Okay, number 2, review and consider approval of the revised 2013-14 revenue and expenditure budgets.
Mine's the US BD 20.
Well, you guys did that. We've already looked at this one time, so we're just taking a look at the approval of the revised 2013-2014 revenue and expenditure budget. We talked about last week. I guess the question, if you have any questions, you can certainly go over it again. Otherwise, I'm just looking for an approval to accept it.
Do you have any questions?
And this could change, we're still unsure about some of the special ed funding, I would tell you that, but we don't know what's gonna shake out there.
Make a motion to approve the revised revenue and expenditure budget.
There's a motion by Mark. A second by David. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, next, review proposed 2014-15 revenue budget, revenue and expenditure budgets.
Right now, we're gonna be down about, and you have the sheet on here, this is the first reading of it. So at the next meeting, I will ask for approval of this. At this point, it shows the proposed revenue for 14-15, 8.98, and the proposed expenditures, 8.75. We're gonna be down about 11, 12 students, mainly from our graduating class just being bigger than the one coming in. And now, I remind the board that last year we had some surprises as far as some students moving out of district. We're hopeful that that doesn't happen again. Then it breaks down into food service, and again, it brings in the proposed revenue and the proposed expenditures, and that goes through the community education, capital, debt service, and then the trust fund itself. So when you get down to positive or deficit budget for really general fund, we're looking at the difference 2,300 or 232, 633 as the difference between the two. And then if you go down to the bottom where it says fund balance, that's where your increase is. You know, we're going to increase our fund balance by about 200,000 if everything goes the way it should. All right, so we'll have it, and we'd have a fund balance of 397,882. Okay, food service is just about break even. Community education comes out a little bit ahead. Capital, we did have to spend a little bit into our capital for the 5-year plan. So for our capital, we do not have much of a fund balance for our capital also. In fact, my 5-year plan, I show a little less than that. So, questions on this?
Okay,
I don't need any action, just want to answer any questions that you have. At the next board meeting, I would ask for approval.
do you have any comments from the public? Which I told you in the beginning, you gotta wave your arms if you, okay? Number 4, review and consider approval of 5-year plan for capital expenditure facilities needs.
It's Exhibit C. The first part is just all guest health and safety. We've just left that in the last 2 years. It's really, we're told what we have to do many times. That number can vary up and down. And it's always a year behind as far as us recouping the cost. If you just take a look at it, the darkened in budget for 2014 are the things that we budgeted. You see on the first page that we budgeted $25,000, upkeep of fields $10,000. We still have the 4th payment of $5,000 for the baseball stadium, where we did contribute $25,000 to that. So that's kind of where we're at. Irrigated fields, we're looking at putting some sprinklers into that far, I think the JV baseball field, that's right, Max, so that we have a field that's watered, and we'll move some of our practices over that field for that. And if you go to page 2, just some of the highlights for that particular piece would be boiler repair. We reduced that down from our 10,000 to 5,000 at both buildings. I can tell you that makes me a little nervous, but it was our best shot as we were making cuts to our capital budget. Improvements for the elementary school, just $3,000, flooring $3,000. For the middle school, secondary school, improvements were $6,000, band room lights are $2,000. Again, boiler repair, flooring $2,500. Padding for the high school gym, it's getting pretty worn out. We do think that's a thing that we need to do, and that was $61. Shingle the garage, if we don't do it, we're gonna have some damage to our garage, so that became a necessity. Repair the roofs. Roof 1 has come out, certainly talked to us. We're looking really more at $100,000 needed to repair the roofs that we have. We budgeted $10,000 because that's what we kind of have to budget for it and still get the other things done, but we'll talk about that when we get into the facility project. But we do have $10,000 for the roofs. Classroom technology for the elementary, $10,000, secondary, I think $8,000, so about $18,000 for that. If you go to the last page, $8,000 for the expenditures for technology. Technology lease, this is part of the reason, again, that we don't have a lot of money in our capital. And it's the 3rd year of the lease, so this is the last year for that lease, $57,000. And then also some infrastructure, and again, it's the 3rd year of that lease for $22,000. Then the last big thing that's on there, we have some tractor replacement. We're trying to save some money buy another tractor because we changed the way that we were doing it. We need some snow removal equipment for that. Also some technology. Our server access costs us $3,300 every year. Another big thing is vans. We have a special needs van, our van that uses our wheelchairs, we're going to need to replace. The good news is that the WCED, which we are associated with, may, and we're pretty sure, we're very optimistic, will pay for that van. So we would save about $30,000 to $35,000, I believe, on that if they'll pay for it, and I believe they will in the end. But when we put this together, until I see the dollars, I'm a little reluctant to change it. But we think that will help with that piece. In the end, when you start looking at the estimated revenue, $235,698, that's what our estimated revenue is. We have about 107 carried over. We're spending $343,028, which is a deficit of $25,650. It's going to leave us a carryover of about $81,000. Not a lot. But there's things, most of the things that are here, we just need to get done. You know, and again, that's without any roofing projects in here, which we'll certainly discuss at our facility piece, discussion about getting some of those roofs fixed. Because if we added that to this, the cost of that would come off from one of these other projects. Questions on this? We spent a lot of time looking. I wish it was a better outlook for the capital, but there's a lot of things that are in our general fund that should also be in capital.
I'll make a motion to approve this 5-year plan for capital expenditures. Seconded by Deb. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Okay. Review and consider approval of the annual AVE consortium agreement with Glacial Lakes Consortium for 2014-15.
I'll just give a little bit of...
Sure, that's our annual agreement with that consortium so we can provide adult basic ed. That's how statutory money flows from the state for adult basic ed to a consortium and then comes back out to us.
This
It's
is
a good arrangement there, it's how it's all going there, so.
Okay. Motion by Deb,
Second.
second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Roll call.
Is it a... All opposed? No, technically on the roll call vote, we use the roll call vote a fair amount, but in my conversations about that, roll call votes are to be called by the chairperson when we think it's not going to be unanimous. So we would call for a roll call. So that's the literature.
And we have to do it for our resolutions.
Yeah, we do it for our resolutions, but in one of these, if we think it's not unanimous and we're not certain, the whole idea to the roll call is the public's supposed to have an idea of how everybody voted. So, okay, opposed? I didn't ask for opposed. Okay, passed. Okay, then we're gonna discuss current West Central Conference situation. There it is. You were prepared for it, even came down in advance.
And drop.
I dropped off 2 handouts at each table before, or each chair before the meeting. Basically, the purpose for this discussion is, if you're not aware, YME or Yellow Medicine East out of Granite Falls has left our conference starting in the fall of 2015. They were a school that was in our division, or a conference had 10 schools and split into 2 5-team divisions, and YME was one of those. So leaving us with 9 teams obviously would change the way that we operate as a conference. Certainly we can't have a division of 5 and a division of 4 and operate the way that we were. The West Central Conference has been a very sporadic, I would call it volatile, but that's maybe not it hasn't been consistent in the 5 years that I've been here. Counting this coming season, this coming year will be the first time that there's been 0 change from one year to the next as far as teams involved or divisions. It's been a constant change. I wanted to inform you guys about where the situation's at. If a situation were to arise where we would apply to another conference, the school board, I would ask for you guys to be behind that, to show a conference that we're serious about it. For us to be able to do so, we would have to give a 1-year notice to our current conference. And so I'll explain the handout that I give you. I just wanted to give you some background information first. If we were to look at changing a conference, for instance, for the fall of 2015, the same time frame YME would be, we would have to give notice to our current conference by August of this year. Does that make sense? And so obviously I didn't want to come in July or August and bring that up to you without any kind of background or time for you guys to think or ask me questions. Since learning about YME and understanding where our conference situation's at, I've met with all of our, I tried to meet with all of our head coaches. We had one large meeting plus a touch base individually with them. They're in understanding of our situation and the possibility of our alignment with another conference. Just so you know, there's positives and negatives to all situations. There's 2 sports we currently offer, which is gymnastics and dance team. That the Central Minnesota Conference is the one that you have the information here. They don't currently have a conference meet for those sports because they don't have enough teams. Obviously, if we were in their conference, that would add teams. To make it a likelihood, we would potentially have to look for a scheduling agreement to be able to do that. It's not atypical, for instance, Holding Ford, not a part of our conference, they swim in our conference swim meet, as some of the schools in our conference have swim and dive. On the other side, they have a conference speech meet, which is something that we don't have currently with our conference. So there's some of those things. They do a junior high scheduling agreement that we don't have. So what I did was, because of YME leaving and there being 9 schools, it changes the dynamics. I know that there's, our conference is looking at the possibility of adding additional schools to make it back to an even number. The majority of the schools in our conference would prefer to have a larger conference split up into divisions. It hasn't really panned out for the previous 4 years. It's been a consistent change. My personal opinion, I don't think it's that great of a situation. With that being said, it is a good fit in comparison to a lot of other places we could go, but there is a possible opportunity for us to apply and be accepted to the Central Minnesota Conference, which is why I have this information for you. I've reached out just on an individual level to the Central Minnesota to ask them if there would be any interest if we applied, not wanting to go through a lot of work if they didn't have any mutual interest. And their response was, if you guys come to a formal application, then they would act upon it. They don't want to go through the work of anything with basically me asking questions, not knowing if the administration and the school board here are behind that. But if you look at this I have on the left-hand side, you can see that's our current conference. The schools that are involved, what the average mileage, that's a one-way trip. So every time, obviously, when we go there, we have to come back. So that at the end, when you see the average mileage for a one-way trip in that conference is 45 miles. So the average trip is actually 90 miles, if you understand what I'm saying. So then there's the enrollments of those schools. That's not that's the Minnesota State High School League count enrollment. That's how the State High School League counts enrollment, which is a formula based on free and reduced and different things on an October 1 attendance basis. The middle is a potential, if we would apply to the Central Minnesota, ACGC has also expressed interest in doing that. So the middle column or the middle section there, you see the Central Minnesota schools, including ACGC, what our average trip would be, and it's 36.2, and the average enrollment of those schools would be down from 291.1 to 263.9. Ours is 248, so closer to schools like us. Just so you're aware, there's a chance that, and maybe the best chance of us having an opportunity for the Central Minnesota school would be if Rockford would leave the Central Minnesota conference. They've been involved in discussions with other conferences. So I just put together a scenario if that would happen, so you could see that that would decrease our transportation by quite a bit. For instead of 45 miles one way or 90, it would be 35 or 70 round trip. So you see, I put dance team and gymnastics just so you understand that right now we would have to find an agreement for those students to be able to participate at a conference level, to earn all conference. But there's, of course, budget impact. We make an average of 8. That number in the fall, it will actually be a little bit higher, depending on if we're on a home or an away cycle for volleyball. But the average of 8 trips per sport, or 42 total bus trips through the fall, winter, and spring at mileage and time, a potential for larger crowds and less travel. And it's a better situation for our students in every case except for 2 sports. And with that being said, the gymnastics conference that we're in, there's a heavy state perennial team such as Melrose that's in there, and so our program is not necessarily, when I talked to our gymnastics coach, I'm not going to quote her or say exact, but she didn't have an issue seeing that the conference isn't really a great fit for where we're at in our program. And the transportation being an issue in the spring, we release in the springtime early to get to track meets and baseball and softball, and primarily baseball and softball would be impacted by this. Our students would be able to stay in the classroom in the spring longer as well, driving to BBE, Kimball, or Eden Valley, holding for some of those places for games as opposed to going to Morris or Montevideo, Minnewaska, Benson. Some of those trips are longer. So with all of that being said, on Thursday of this week, which will be a meeting for district football, and I just gave you that handout so you see all the schools that are involved. We meet at 10 o'clock in Alexandria. This is the district that we're in with 24 different schools. That was supposed to create a shorter transportation trip for us, but it probably won't. There's proposed divisions, as you can see. The division that we're in no longer has Melrose or Sauk Center. So our 2 largest or longest trips are still in there. And this is just a proposal. Each athletic director from these 24 schools will have a voice or an opinion to vote on this. But I just think it's going to be very hard for things to change, because every time you think about, like, it would be really good if Eden Valley would come in for us and Morris would go out, but Rockford certainly doesn't want to drive to Morris or, Howard Lake, so those schools aren't going to be in favor. It's just going to be really hard, I think, for this to change. It might change, but that's where that's at. So after this meeting, because of the conference situation that we're at with 9 schools looking to add, we're hoping to be able to meet afterwards with all of these schools in mind to see if we could come up with something, divisions for all sports. Some schools may choose to only be involved for football and to see. So that's why it's probably a wait and see on the Central Minnesota, because what if district football causes Kimball and BBE to say we no longer want to be in the Central Minnesota? It does us no good to apply to a conference that's going to be in the same situation we're at. Just so you know, it's been since the early 90s, I believe, since the Central Minnesota Conference has had any change. So it's been a very constant, consistent, well-run conference. And that's why it's something that I would look at as being a great possibility or fit, not only geographically and enrollment-wise, but the way that they run things as well. Do you have any questions? I'm not really asking for action, except for if it comes down to it, I'll be asking, and I don't want you guys to feel like, where's this coming from, or where are we at in comparison to what things are right now.
Questions? Thank you very much. Okay, any public comment on any of these so far? Okay, we're going to move to number 7. Review information concerning possible facilities and technology project.
Well, the facility committee has met a number of times. Board members are Lou and Deb and Bruce that are on that committee, and we have a number of committee members here that are on that, and some community members that have also sat in on it. There are 2 things that we're going to talk about funding sources. One are bonds, and when you do a bond referendum or levy, what you do is you pick your number, and then you collect it all at once, and then you pay it back over the course of whatever the number of years are. Okay, so that's for a bond. But there's also on here a capital technology levy. The difference between that is that you collect that every year for the time. So if you would collect $100,000 a year and levy that, you get it for the length of whatever the levy is for. So if it's for 5 years, you would have collected $500,000 over the course of that levy. all right? Now, you've been involved in a number of these things that we're gonna talk about, so we're gonna kind of just start at the top of the page, and I've given you a new copy today, and that was a new copy out there. When we looked at the elementary school, part of the things that were discussed were from UHL in the recommissioning were the ECOs, and that came to $47,050. Now, those ECOs have the ability to pay themselves back in about 3.5 years, I think. Could be at least that where we're predicting around that time frame. We're a little concerned about some of the motors burning out. So we put a budget in there, and we do get a rebate also with that. So replace the motors, once you put electronic controls on those, we're concerned about some motors burning out, so we have that on there. And then the other, the 58,000 are the other things that aren't the ECOs that Yule would fix. Those weren't the things that Donnie and the maintenance crew would fix. There's all the other things from dampers to Donnie, what else would those types of things include?
It would be more dampers and controls that are already on, just adjusting different calibration inside the units.
And then a lot of the stuff, Donnie and his maintenance crew will come up with a maintenance schedule, and we'll follow that schedule. So just interrupt me as we move on down this, all right? You can eliminate there's some metal that's deteriorated in the tunnels. Donnie will take care of that. That's gonna be removed, so not to worry about that. When we talked about boilers, of course, you heard some of the talk about replacing some, whatever. I think in the end, the facility committee said spend $30,000 in repair. So when you look down on the one-time cost, it's the dark one, and the yearly cost is also the dark. You won't see any technology stuff until the all right, so the
Just
decision.
an addition there, the repairing was also going to make it more efficient.
That's correct.
So it was an efficiency.
And I think that would be more than anything. The burners are running right now, so it would be, you're correct, Bruce, it would be more efficiency than anything else. We put more efficient burners in there and make sure that they're operating the way they should be. The column that isn't in the dark are just costs that we came up with. So if you look for 2 small boilers, it costs $175,000. If we repaired it, it'd be $30,000. We put some new burners in, it'd be $80,000, all right? So those are just costs that we put in there so we're aware of it. We did talk about the windows in the elementary school. That's one of the things that a couple of the other places did have on there. It's about $320,000. We think it'll be more than that. At this point, we have not put that on there, but that's, again, something for the board. You're gonna get a lot of information today, some you've heard about, some you haven't heard about. Some information that we discussed, but we didn't put on the project, but in the end, the board gets to decide what project we do, and if we're going to do one, and when it would go out for a vote.
Bob, I did get an email from Heartland Glass. The quote was, the $320,000 was from the year 2009. I got an email today that it is now up to $350,000, which does not include any of the repairs inside the building as far as ceiling tiles and what have you, electrical that has to be moved. So it is up at $350,000 without that even. So.
And you don't, I mean, it would look nice, it would certainly be some aesthetic value to it. Yeah, there would be some efficiency to it, but it would take quite a while to recoup the cost of that. And that's one of the reasons it's not on there. It's going to be more like a 29, 30-year wait to get some of those costs back. So, but it's something certainly that the board can discuss. Any questions up to that point?
I think the discussion was the analysis. They're all glass right now. If you just replaced them with glass to glass, it was a 29 or 32-year payback. But we didn't have an analysis if they made it into a wall with adequate insulation in it, and the windows became smaller. So that was something we were gonna look at. So we're not sure if it could be a shorter payback, we just don't know what it is.
And I think in the 320,000, they would be doing some of that, correct? It wasn't just replacing the glass, it was also...
It would be putting panels in, not actually brick, so.
At the high school, again, you got the ECOs, the motors, and then the other. And in both buildings, we are suggesting that you take the carpet, remove it other than a few areas, and put tile in. So it's not just replacing carpet with carpet, it's replacing carpet with tile. Certainly, from my perspective, a lot healthier, you don't have the mold, you don't have a lot of issues, it's easier maintenance. Our media centers, I think, would be probably the area that we would not do that in. Lockers at the high school, they're repairing them and upgrading them. We still need to replace a few of them in areas that we have students. So that's on there. Science rooms, I think that would be for
It's
faucets.
just replacing faucets and all the piping going to them, which is from the wall, which amounts to about 4 feet to the faucets. Putting new valves, shut-off valves in.
And we did talk to the science teachers, and that's what they suggested. So that came from them.
I will say, just in our analysis, we talked about having to replace all the counters, and that was very expensive. So it was an analysis by these folks to just do the faucets and the science
It
group.
was really the best
That
bang
was
for the
nice.
buck and what we needed to get done in order to make it more efficient in the science rooms. Now, we've certainly heard an awful lot about roofs, both from Garland and Roof One. I think the facility committee would say we shouldn't go with Garland just because of the cost. Great roof, but you can virtually put 2 of the other roofs in for the price of the Garland roof. Also, some current concern about additional costs tearing off the Garland roofs, because now you've got a lot more material there. When we talked about the roofs, as far as repair, Roof One was estimating $60,000 for the secondary buildings and $40,000 for the elementary buildings. And that was primarily which roofs? The ones that are...
Adhered roofs.
The adhered roofs, the ones that are already glued down, not the ballast roofs. And then we talked about resurfacing the 2 sections in the high school at one time, and you can see some of the price difference there. For Garland to do it was $130,000, for Roof One to do it would be $51,000. And those are adhered roofs, so those are not ballast roofs. That's correct, right, Don?
Correct.
Yeah. So what happened after that is that we did meet with Roof One, and we said, okay, give us what you think would happen. Let's say if we had to repair things right at the beginning of a bond, and then wait 5 years and do another project, what would that look like? So the cost of the first one was $355,000, and I'll pull it up. You've got a picture, and we'll go through that, but I also have a colored one that I'll put on here. And that also includes the repair. So that's why all the repair and everything is on the left-hand side. If we did it and we did the projects, that would include repairing the other parts of the roads that we need to repair. Okay? I'll see if I can get that up. You want to start explaining the first project?
Yeah, the first project, we,
I like that green.
all right, the first project is out at the high school. Be nice to have a map up there, though.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
eventually get there.
Everybody see this or should we move around? Are you okay?
Oh, you got to rotate.
Well,
There we go.
perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Upside down, perfect. There we go.
There we go. Okay, first go-around would be the yellow section, which is the middle school, and the orange section would be repaired. Also, the green color, there we go. green, orange, and yellow will be repaired. And then they will be replacing the office re-roof. So over Lori's office, they would be replacing that roof. Then at the, well, second go around at the high school then would be replacing the blue areas and the green area. That would be 5 years down the road. And also replacing the roof over at the vocational building. 3 sections, that part of that is steel, it would be just the adhered roofs. Then when we get to the elementary school,
Okay, we'll get there.
at the elementary school, what they're mainly gonna do over there is fix all the, the red sections, which are adhered roofs. And we're running into a big problem with all the blue greenish roofs there. They would replace those roofs because everything is pulling away from the walls there. We're getting a lot of leaks on the edge of that whole system there. So they would be replacing that on the second go around, which would be in 5 years. I think that's about it for the second go around, is just, yeah, elementary, no. Sorry about that. That is the first go around. Yeah. They would be repairing the red and replacing the bluish green on the first go around.
We're starting to have some of our issues around those bells roofs.
So basically, the elementary is all in the first year.
Yeah, the elementary would be the most,
All
all the blue is gonna be replaced and the red would be repaired.
So then the elementary will be complete.
Pretty close. Yeah, you'll have the red, in a few years, but they say that those roofs, once they repair them, they get 5 to 10 years. Also, they'd be pretty good shape then.
And the replaced ones would be up to 15 years.
Closer to,
Well, they're saying.
Say 15,
Yeah.
right? That's what they warranty for, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the warranty that we'd be looking at for this would be 20 years.
Okay.
That's what the warranty on this would be.
So is all that fit into project one, what you just went over?
It's kind of nice to have both of that, but project one would, at the high school, would be repairs to the yellow and orange roofs. And then just replacing Lori's office area there.
And I can send the board these color maps. Why don't we, Donnie and I can type something up
Yeah, actually,
and we'll send the color map with the typed up.
But essentially, you're saying that the elementary is going to be completely in the first
Right.
what you have colored there.
Right. Green.
Yes.
Show me a picture of the yellow one.
I'm actually kind of confused with that.
Oh, this one, no.
I thought some of this was in this next 5 years.
Well, there'd be one project right away,
Yeah?
and then one project 5 years
So we have
after.
project one and project two.
Correct.
Correct.
So Mark is asking about project two.
No, this is project one. The elementary is project one, and what Donnie had said. And then there's parts of the high school that are part of the project
Project one, the high, that over Lori's area.
That would be the only
And then project two is just basically get up at the high school campus.
Right,
Not down here.
that would be the auditorium.
Yep.
In 5 years.
In 5 years. yeah.
So are you thinking bond now for it, though?
You can bond now and hold for 5 years, but you have to spend it by the end of that 5th year. So you just can't bond it and then hold it forever. I mean, to tell you the truth, I'd love to be able to bond and then wait till we get 10 years down the road or whenever it's needed, but you can hold it 5 years. When we talked to Roof One, we thought that the first project really needs to be done now. You know, and with the repairs, because the repairs are included in that cost. And then this 5 years down the road, our best estimate, again, it's an estimate on our part to get those other projects done. And certainly it could change if one of our other pieces went out, we would still have that amount of money to do whatever project we needed on the roofs.
What if something changes in 5 years? You have you've got that $290,000 sitting in an account presumably, right?
Yes.
And which we're paying interest on, or we could be making some
Could
money.
be
So it might be a break.
Yeah, it's probably breaking.
Okay. What if something changes on that? What if another priority comes? Does that have to be spent on the roofs?
It wouldn't necessarily have to be spent. I mean, the piece would be the PR piece with the community. I mean, I think if you could say that there's another priority that needs to change, because one thing is that if we keep it under $2 million, if that's where it's at, and it depends on how all this shakes out, we'll get to that a little bit, but if you keep it under 200 million, you don't have to do a review and comment with the state. Or 2 million, I said 200 million, 2 million.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it'd be a big project. 2 million, you don't have to do the review and comment. So any more than that, you have to, and you don't have to do a review and comment for any technology levies. So you could, but again, if you're telling the community that you're going to use this money for the roofs, you better be able to sell whatever reason you're going to change to do whatever project. So it'd be going to the community and saying, yep, we had that 290 for this, but we just lost 2 boilers and they can't be repaired, and now we need to do something. Other questions on the roof part?
We also have some of the facility group
Yep.
here, too, if you guys have questions on anything.
Questions or want to add a comment? Okay, then we'll just kind of keep moving down. So that kind of gets through the roofs. Now, our phone system has been struck by lightning. Our insurance company did pay for the repair of that, which came to about $40,000. All right, but the one piece that we're not quite sure of that we did put on here was our voicemail. And the concern with the phone, I hate to say phone company because everybody thinks it's Bell, but the company that we're working with, that's working with our phones, we're concerned that that will be next. Because it's an old system now, our other part of the system is updated, so we did put the cost of replacing the voice mail part of that phone system in there. Okay. For security, camera upgrades and adding additional cameras, 10,000, buzzing system would be about 15,000. I think we use the 25,000 for the cameras and any security measures that we want. Okay, buildings and grounds. Part of the piece that this facility project will do is it does help us in our capital, and it does help us in our general. One of the things that we will have to spend a lot of money on within the next 10 years are vans. Well, we figure about $105,000 worth of that. You keep the van for 12 years, then it's got to go. So we did put some dollars in there to replace those vans, so you know that we're going to have to replace within the 5-year span. I see a question rolling around up there.
I guess my first question, or my first comment would be, if you're gonna be putting a vehicle on basically like a loan for that long a period of time, that doesn't make sense to me that.
Part of
Is
my
there something else that you could take off what we need for capital and swipe it out so that?
those were the bigger dollar items. We can certainly look at that, and I do understand what you're saying. Part of our problem right now is that until we get that reserve fund built up, we just don't have the capital dollars to be spending on a lot of things, and it depends on what it goes through. But I do understand and don't disagree. But we did look for things that would help us build that capital up immediately. Because even as we go down, we're gonna talk about a few more of those same type of items, Mark,
Okay.
that we're stuck with. So, but yep, and that's certainly a point for the board to discuss, and I do understand where the board is coming from on that. Parking lots, figure we have about 43,000 needed for repair and to resurface. The track, within that 5 years, we believe we're gonna have to put about 15,000 in to fix that. There's a pretty good sized crack in there right now that we don't think is gonna get any better. And then just upgrading of fields and stuff with the new piece, it'd be nice to make sure that our fields are upgraded, we have a line, we have all our fields looking well. And again, we'll get back, because once I kind of go through this, then I'm certainly gonna open it to the board, and the board can talk and ask questions as we go. Now, here's another piece that is in the same piece that Mark brought up. For the high school and middle school, one of the things that happened is that when, I think it's XP is no longer supported, it caused us to lose a computer lab in our elementary school. But we're still paying 1 year of the lease for one rotation. So, and we are in need of additional tablets and those types of things. And what the high school would like to do is add 6 carts to 27 tablets. It's a one-time cost, but it does get down to where, what Mark was saying, we're at 58,000, and the elementary, 4 carts of 30 tablets. And they can use those tablets to take care of our issue in the computer lab until we get another rotation.
But that's not a bond, though, right? You were saying that, where is that part of the bond?
That can be part of a bond, but it's the same type of thing that you're talking about. It's, you know, will we get 10 years of life out of these tablets? We don't know. So far, our tablets have lasted pretty well in the length that we've had them, but that's a far cry from 10. But again, part of the issue is that we are in a bind to try to get these up, and it was our way of getting some technology in the building right away for our students to use. Now, if you look on the other side of that, now we start getting into some things that would go for the levy for technology. The $70,000, as you can see in the other one, we put about 75,000 in, really 60,000 for every year of a rotation. So it never ends. We pay for one rotation, 3 years, and then we start another one. So when we get done with the lease that we have for our technology, next year we'll pay off the last payment. The next year we would have another payment of the same type. Okay, it's just a never-ending cycle because we continue to replace our technology. The $70,000 would be collected every year and would take that rotation and add additional technology into our classrooms. Whether it be in the form of smart boards, whether it be in the form of whatever technology we believe we need for our students. Okay, everybody got that? The 6,000 would be a piece, again, for infrastructure because we continue to need more bandwidth over and over. The 34,000 right now, for the most part, is coming out of our general fund. It should really be coming out of capital. And we pay that every year on an every year cost for the software type of packages that we have. We can also pay for our hardware, network administrator, which is about 54,000 right now. That comes out of our general fund also, as a recurring cost. And I've been talking to the board about the need to have a technology person to work with our teachers and also help with other things around the building. And that would be a teacher type of position. And that's also a reoccurring cost, and that's how you come up with the 225 at the very end. But remember, if that's a 10-year levy, then it really comes to 2.2. Because it's 10 years times that amount every year. That would help both our general and our capital funds. Questions on that?
I guess I still would have a hard time saying that we should spend $100,000 out of that bond to pay for technology when we're going for technology. And
Well, part of the problem though is that we're a year away from collecting anything, even if we were to go for this project this November, we would not collect the levy for the technology until the year 15-16. It's 1 year behind.
Which was the bond, wasn't it?
No, bond is immediate. You collect the bond within a few months after it's passed. And that's why, and I don't disagree, Mark, if we were in a better position where our capital is able to support these things, you're right, I wouldn't even have suggested that to the committee.
Bob, I
Yep.
think one thing, and for the middle school, high school, we could put off our 5 of those 6 carts to the 2 years down the road.
I know, that's what we talked about in
At the
technology.
technology meeting, and I think, because Dave needs that one lab, so as far as having one of those carts now, and the reason I would need the one cart would be for the Project Lead the Way, you know, but we could move, just have one cart of the Chromebooks now, and then move the rest of them to the levy part, or at least to consider, get to thinking of where.
Yep, and I'm fine with that, I do understand where you're coming
I
from.
mean, it'd be
Mark.
great to get them in the classroom sooner, but
Yeah, because it doesn't take much for those, I mean, I understand their technology, but it doesn't take long for something to break on them, and then you're good. You don't have
and
it
we,
anymore.
yeah, and we talked about that as they would rotate through, it wouldn't be as a whole group that our capital down the road could replace them, you know, or our building budgets as they would bring.
If we can free up some of our capital, then it's not an issue for us to continue repair the technology and bring new technology in.
Like I said, I'd just rather spend an extra $100,000 on buildings or something else in the facility that is.
That's why it's coming to the board.
Instead of technology.
Yep.
Especially going after technology.
But at the technology committee, you guys were comfortable with one cart?
Right, we had an option for this whole next year that we couldn't make it and stuff, so, I mean, we got these other educators, they should be able to figure something out for 1 year. I mean, it's not like we need this here tomorrow.
I would need about, to do something with the lab, I'd need about 20 for the elementary school, I think. And you're right, we could get by with that, if that's the board's desire.
So the technology committee isn't necessarily,
You know, we talked about a number of different
Yeah,
options.
we just talked about options and
Yeah.
said that
what
we
would be,
just.
what would be your recommendation?
Well, I'm only one person, I mean, the committee came up with, I mean, there was, I mean, like I said, we were all
What
sitting there talking about.
recommendation did the committee come up with?
They really did, they just had a.
We
just
discussed
talked about
a
it.
number of possibilities on what we could do.
Who put this?
Certainly, we talked with the facility and it came up. It is a fast resolution of taking care of this, that issue. Mark's problem, or Mark's concern, is a valid concern. It's, you know, you're buying technology with a 10-year levy, and it's the same concern on any of this stuff that's not gonna last 10 years. Because you're just got a kind of one-time thing and then it's done.
So you're suggesting we should pay for those without capital dollars?
Well, no, well, or through, or.
Or through the technology levy.
levy, or, I mean, I know, like, I can't say verbatim exactly what the conversations were, but I think Dave had some kind of a resolution that he said, you know what, in a pinch, I could do this for 1 year and get us through and
And
stuff
that
like that.
was doing the one cart or
Yeah.
the one lab, and kind of, I'm in that same boat for 1 year, get through, and then move it to wait for the other carts to
Yeah.
bring more technology into the classroom in more ways and different areas. So it could move to the levy part versus the bond part. Do we feel it would be very advantageous to both buildings and programs, and it's what kids need at this point, and they should be trained on, et cetera? Yes, but it could move from the bond to the levy from the bond, I think, but we probably each need that cart or whatever, Dave for the lab and Mike for the project lead-away.
So since that was a one-time event, what you would do is divide that by 10. Or 9. If.
Yeah, or
if
if
we
you
had
want to
put
do it,
one
I
cart
mean,
here,
I'm a little reluctant to make that technology levy go too high. Because that's I mean, it's different in that you're collecting that amount every year. Yeah, and you're probably not gonna, you may not, you'll spread it out or whatever, depending on what the bond is, you can spread it out over a longer period of time. So I'd be reluctant to start making that too much of a bigger number, because.
And I agree with that, but I think, we still have, we're still proposing that we're gonna be collecting $225,000 a year for that. So, I mean, I think we can still be creative. I mean, we don't have to jump into it and buy everything the first year.
Yep.
I mean, we can, it's just like our smart boards. I mean, it takes time to get everybody trained in them and so on and so forth. So you don't want just all this technology to sit there and not have the training also that goes along with that.
And that's part of the reason for the individual to help with the training.
But that individual is one individual, and there's 60, positions, teachers that have to have some sort of guidance, even just to set up a tablet and stuff like that. It's huge. I mean, it takes time to do that.
Some need more than others.
Yeah, so, like I said, I mean, like I said, I'm only one person, I'm just.
And again, don't, if you bring questions up on this thing, don't feel bad about that.
I'm
That's
not feeling
what,
bad about it, I'm just.
that's why it's coming to the board.
yeah,
So they should be bringing this
facility
product.
committee, we didn't hear, all we had was this.
Right.
So the suggestion would be to, now, we, 58,000, say that was 60, we would have 10,000 remaining on the bond, and 10,000 of the other one remaining, that would be one cart apiece, and then moved $5,000 a year and $3,000 a year to the other levy. Is that what we're thinking?
Brings the levy up.
No, I think we can absorb all that eventually through that. I mean, like I said, we're asking for if we get it, it's $225,000 a year for technology, which we never had before. It's huge. I mean, today.
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You're saying that if we take it off of the bond, we'll just absorb it?
Yeah.
Within the
$225,000.
Where?
What we would do is, I mean, we get the rotation, we'd have to take some out of the 70,000.
Before we do that.
Well, we have computers rotation here for $70,000.
And we are saving, I mean, we're saving our general fund in our capital, even the rotation, that $70,000 rotation, you are saving that $70,000 out of our capital every year. So there is ways to absorb some of that. Now, it will take longer, but there are ways to absorb it. I wouldn't disagree with that. We just wouldn't get it right away. We'd buy it in
But that's
pieces.
not a bad thing.
No, the way technology changes every 6 months, it makes more sense to buy a cart this year, another cart next year, another cart the next year, because each one is going to be better, newer.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, you're not gonna keep up with technology. The sooner we get the pieces into our students' and teachers' hands, the better. So I don't wanna wait any longer than I have. I wanna buy as much as we can and get the best bang for the buck out of it. It's how we do it is the only question. And I don't have an issue with, saying we don't wanna do it this way, and, we'll just crunch through to make it happen until we get the technology levy. If that's the desire of the board, I don't have an issue with that at all. That was a quick fix to that situation.
So the $70,000, I thought was our rotation.
It was rotation and a little bit of upgrades to the technology that we have. Right now, our rotations are they release about 60,000 a year, is every year, so 180,000 over a course of 3 years.
Because you would still need to do the rotation every 3 years.
Okay, but this is $70,000 a year, so what you're saying, Mark, is the rotation was $60,000, and that payment was over a 3-year period of time?
No, every year is 60,
Every year was
for
60,000.
60,000.
Okay, so.
for 3 years. It's
So
about
that was
$180 for a
$10,000, so
rotation.
you're saying the $10,000 extra is what we would use to compensate for this money?
That, or, you know, even, I mean, you're speculating that even we're gonna spend $60,000 on somebody to be internally here to run the operations. That might not be the case either, so there's some money there that you can, you know, maybe use.
So I
You know,
thought you
so
had
there's
some fairly good
other
information
things.
on that one.
But no,
I thought you had fairly good information on that.
well, I mean, there is good information on that. It's how you do it. If we remove the 58 and the 40, all it means is that we don't get the technology as fast as we would have gotten. That we're gonna have to plug the hole for a year until we get it. We can certainly do that. The 58 and the 40 was a fast fix to get the technology in our hands immediately so that the teachers can use it and the students can use it. The problem, the downside for it is that, again, it's a one-time buy, and you are paying for it over 10 years. So certainly, if we need to, we can remove that and take a longer time and get it as we can.
Would it be a year and a half after the?
You can collect 1 year after the vote, so you wouldn't get it for the 14-15 year, you would have it for the 15-16 year.
And then you would only get possibly some of the,
Well, you get
break
the,
it.
no, you get the 225,000 if that's the number that we settle on, and how we use that would be up to us on how we use it. Although if we're telling the public that this is how we're gonna use it, we need to really stick into that.
Right.
So, one cart for each is kind of the thought and absorb the rest of it?
What you can do is probably put 10,000 and eliminate the other one. And in fact, probably be a little less than that.
I think one cart's gonna be 8,000, it was just over 8,500, I think.
For a full cart.
For the Chromebooks and the cart. I think it was the one that I just purchased.
So, you're saying to leave 8,500 on high school, middle school?
We still need the 8,500 for the
For each,
middle school.
for each building.
Okay.
How can that be the same when there's more tablets?
What?
How can that be the same cost when there's more tablets at the elementary school?
These are Chromebooks, not tablets.
Okay.
So, and
I mean,
he runs into a bigger bind because one of his labs is totally gone because of the operating system. So,
what I'd suggest is we just get an estimate on what the exact cost is for that. It'll be around $8,000 for both for each building.
Okay,
the
and then,
elementary school needs a cart.
They would like, they do need one because of that lab going out.
Bob, remember that he lost all the students'
Ones in the
computers
classroom.
in all the classrooms.
Yeah, we've already, Dave and I think we also, he's got some money, because they still have the 8,000 or 10,000 that's in the capital budget right now.
Okay.
So I think we would probably be okay with that.
That's an
So-
upgrade.
Yeah.
if we took the original 98,000 and we take 8,500 out for each school, it leaves us with about $81,000, and we believe we can absorb that into these other numbers that we already have down.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna eliminate those numbers and place them, there's gonna be 85 for each building. Or whatever that costs, is approximately that much. So that'll just be dropped.
Yeah, but it still leaves $81,000 that was proposed here,
Well,
which,
from
that's
my-
gonna be absorbed.
Well, no, I would, to me, it's not necessarily absorbed, it's gone.
It's done,
You just, those numbers disappear, it reduces the amount.
yeah. At the end, it'll be 1.6 million.
Someday do we need 6 carts, and someday do we need 4 carts, or was that all?
Well, what we'll try to do is get those through, what I'm hearing is that we would try to get those through the technology levy over a course of whatever years we need to get it from.
So, truly, the $81,000 that we're cutting will be absorbed
In-
by buying those same notebooks over that
Over,
period of time with the numbers that already exist.
Along, yes.
I got you.
Okay? Reserve Center. I did finally get a hold of Jolanda. All right, and although I sent her an email and I have not heard back from her because after yesterday's facility meeting, we did have a question. We can adjust things. Number one, we can give it back. Number two, we can pay 80% of the appraised value. And we don't have an appraised value right now. The closest I could come talking to one person would be, they thought around 400,000. So it'd be 80% of that, and then virtually we can do whatever we want with the property. The other piece is to change the plan and do something else other than use building. Example, make fields out of it. So we would just clear it, make some practice fields out of it, maybe drill a well there so we can water it and that kind of stuff, and then we would pay 20% of the value of the appraised value of the property. What I don't know is, and what I've been trying to get an answer on is, how long can we wait on the building then? If we say we're gonna make fields and that type of stuff, can we leave the maintenance shed, can we leave the building in case we need it for something else down the future and make fields with the land that's available? And I have not been able to get back to her to get an answer on that. Okay, but those are kind of the options on where we're at. Well, the other option would be to upgrade the building and use it for what we had planned to use it for, which would be educational purposes. It certainly would, we put in the 80,000 for the 20% appraisal if it's 400,000. I want some guidance from the board if they want me to get an appraisal of that property. Because there'll be some cost to that. But those are kind of the options that we have right now. Certainly to upgrade that building, I think it's going to cost more than $80,000. By the time you make it ADA compliant, I think you're probably going to have to put a sprinkler system in.
Plus, we can't find the use for the building.
That's part of the
We
problem.
can't justify it with use that I have heard.
I mean, the property is a nice property to have. It's adjacent to the building. I would hate to give the property up, but at the same time, I'm not going to make up the use for the building if we don't need it.
So we did the 20% option, that would be taking the building, you raise the buildings.
But I know we could demolish the buildings then and make a field out of it. What I don't know is, could we leave the building? Not worry about the building, just leave it there. Make fields out of the accessible grounds that we have. And then do with what we need to do with the building at a later time. That's my question to her, and I haven't gotten an answer yet.
But she did say you could change the plan.
I could change the plan, cost us 20%, because no, we're not using it for the educational piece, at least the building itself. I think the facility committee, when we talked about it, felt that was a nice piece of land to have. It does cost us $80,000 to be able to use it for what we want.
It was intermingled with another topic we're going to talk about too, when it came to land space.
Yeah. Correct.
So currently, we have to use it for educational purposes.
We have to use it for education purposes. That was the plan, put students in it, put some nature and use it for
We
that.
can't to use it for a different purpose, we gotta pay the federal government back, so.
That's what they told me. Yeah. Because the example I had, and the easiest one would be to make fields out of it so that we can do that. Now, we may have to put a well in there. That ground is hard. If you don't get some water on that area, I'm not sure I want to have people practicing on it, but.
Did you also tell me that there was a penalty if we didn't do something?
Well, there is a piece that's in there that says that if we don't do anything, and she did not bring up that they were gonna go down that road. I think it was, we have to pay 1/365th of the appraised value, I think, every year that we don't do anything with it. I think that was part of it. The contract or the stuff that we signed was for 30 years. I mean, we couldn't change, if we decided to upgrade and put some students in there for a class, we would have to do that for 30 years if we left it as is. Now, whether they would do a visit with me every third year, I don't know. But those were the options for it. But again, we could certainly take that off and turn it back to them. facility committee thought it was worth doing something with the property.
If we continue, I think then we can show you how it kind of tied together in the facility committee.
Okay, I'm gonna skip over the community center addition piece, we'll get to that right after I finish things. Clean the air ducts, about 45,000 last time we did it. It's been how many years, about 10?
2004.
2004 when you did it last. It would be hard to upgrade get everything running the way it is and not also clean those air ducts.
Isn't that right? Can't you use that for health and safety?
I asked,
You can.
used to be able to.
Used to be.
Last time we did.
Last time we did, we could pay for filters too, but none of that is in there anymore.
But even in the end, even if you do it for health and safety, in the end, the community's getting levied for it, so I'm not sure it would make any difference.
Are any of these projects eligible for health and safety?
Not that we're aware of, no. Health and safety is, well, I would say this, a lot of the things that I think that should be eligible for health and safety are not. I would think security cameras would be one of those things. With that, just those types of things that would come to a little less now, of 1.6. And with that type of project, unless we were to add other things to it, we would not have to have a review and comment by the state. And you'd probably go with a 10-year time frame. Same with the 225.
What is it cut off?
2 million. And part of all of this, of course, is we're on some tight timelines. Now, we're going to bring up one other piece, and everybody kind of has an idea of this one. And at least the facility committee felt like both of those questions should be put together. You know, rather than, because you could have two separate questions. You could have the bond question and the technology levy question. The facility committee didn't feel like put those two together for one question. And you could do that. And they did think that one other possibility of another question would be what Max is going to talk a little bit about. And that would be really a community piece. It's really the addition of a gym and all that, and some other pieces that the community could use, but I'll let Max kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've talked, we've had a few people for a number of years, probably 2 or 3, working on possibility of adding gymnasium space as well as some other things. So one of the things that we talked about in the facility project was a community center. So it would include a new entrance and lobby coming into the current auditorium fitness center area, a place to come in addition with gymnasium space. It would be roughly 2 times the size of our current gymnasium that we use our high school activities in. Would allow us to be able to host different venues that we can't right now, such as section individual wrestling, numerous youth tournaments from volleyball, basketball, wrestling, you name it, as well as a multi-use exercise dance studio to partner with our fitness center, and a visiting locker room to go on to that, and some storage. Just some things that we talked about. We threw out some other ideas as well. That type of project, depending on how the layout and everything would go, would be roughly a $4.8 million project. Doing so would allow us to no longer have to have our gymnastics teams go out to the assembly grounds, but be able to stay in-house in the middle school gymnasium. Not have to tear down and set up throughout the whole season every weekend. It would allow us to showcase that program a little bit, which not a lot of schools our size are able to offer as good of a gymnastics program that we do, and it'd be great to showcase that in our community as well. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. We looked at the areas around us, Wilmer having a $39 million expansion. New London Spicer looking at adding multiple gyms. Eden Valley just did so. And our facilities aren't necessarily larger or better than those around us without those additions. And so I'm looking at what we're offering to our students. Our facility was built, our main facility in 1979, or 69, excuse me, and I don't have the exact dates, but I'm sure when it was built, it wasn't built for girls' basketball, volleyball, and gymnastics in mind, with Title IX and the addition of girls' sports. So. I don't know, anybody from the facilities committee, did I miss something?
So you're thinking of attaching to the?
Attached off of the north side, so
Right off the, or the.
auditorium, yeah. And we've discussed some things, potential the wrestling room could come right, where, what would you call that area where they work out now?
The cardio studio?
Yeah, where the TVs are and stuff, and all, there's those doors. You could go right out those doors, for instance, into a wrestling room. You wouldn't need any space for hallways or any of that stuff, and you could have a fire exit right out onto the outside from there. So there'd be zero wasted space connected to two walls. So some of these numbers are, when you go to a contractor and tell them these are the types of things, they're just taking square footage and giving you about $140 to $145 a square foot, and that's where you come up with your costs. Certainly, that's a starting point right there.
Now, a couple things that we run into, if that the desire of the board is to go down that way. The moment we were to add that, you would have to do a review and comment. And that would make our timelines extremely tight to get it all done. Because we'd have to do an RFP to get somebody come in, and I'd probably suggest that we'd have to have a special board meeting for that. I'd have to put the RFP, the request for proposal, in the newspaper as quick as we can, because even if I got it in this Friday, it wouldn't come out till the next Wednesday. You have to give them at least a week. That's not even much time. They'd have to come in, do a proposal. The board would have to pick whichever contractor that they thought would give us the best deal. And then we'd have to do the review and comment, get that to the state, it's usually about 2 months, and hit our timelines to get our questions developed and all of that type of thing. The facilities committee thought that if we were to do that, that you'd have 2 questions, the first one would have to pass, and that would certainly be my feeling in order to get the second one, even if the vote was there. To me, I think it'd be a great facility for us, but that first question is very important as far as helping us straighten out our budget.
And along that lines, Bob, that both of those, the first question being the first project that you went, aside from the community center, that was a unanimous, I guess, suggestion or motion made by the committee to bring that forth to the school board, was unanimously in favor of that, as well as the community center being the second question. That the first question would have to pass in order for that to be successful as well. We do have a list of names that we've been working on that's over 160 now of people that are in favor of a project like this without doing even a major campaign. So.
I think the issue that we had, and the thing we struggled with last night in bringing it to the board, was timing. When we left the meeting last night, and I don't mean to interpret, my interpretation was that if we had to delay this whole process a little bit to make sure we could get it all done accordingly, and maybe move a little slower, we would consider that. But what's happened to us is this levy for technology will, if we go after January 1st, postpones another year.
If you don't do it at November, during the November election, you're moving that back 1 year before you start collecting, even if it passes.
So
if you don't get it on the ballot in November, then it wouldn't be 15, 16 that you would collect. It'd be 16, 17 that you would collect.
the group that brought it to us the first time actually came in with a plan. Worked with a local or an organization that we know as reputable. It's just that this board didn't authorize anything, we don't really have a vendor to give us suggestions. So, this group that kind of brought it together had an idea of what we're thinking about. The only way to move forward potentially and have a proper analysis is to actually put out an RFP and see what people say. If we find a vendor that would do this, with a nominal cost for us, or no cost hopefully, to help us do the review and comment, they may tell us it can't be done. They might tell us it still could be done, and it could hit the process. We cannot move forward with anything without an RFP, because we can't go to somebody and say, listen, we'd like you to draw all these plans up, but you might not get the deal. I'm not sure we can do that.
No, and the board has to decide whether that is indeed what the board wants to move forward with. And you've gotten a lot of information today. You know, this is an informational meeting. The community has not heard a lot of information other than what has come through the board. So there's really the need to inform the community. And if it wasn't for the timing, we wouldn't have an issue. The first project, our timing is fine. If that's what the board decides to go with, because you don't have to do a review and comment. You just have to get the question and things ready on the timeline, and there's no problem. You add the second piece, and our timeline gets really, really tight. And I won't know if it's possible unless we get somebody on board that's going to help us with the project on whether we can make the timeline, whether we can get all the pieces, review and comment to the state in time to make everything.
Who does the review and comment?
The contractor piece would help with that part. You're gonna have to have a contractor.
By when, in order to put this on the ballot?
July 11th.
Yeah,
The review and comment would have to be done by July?
get the paperwork for it, then it goes to the state.
And your RFPs have to be in?
Well, they have to get somebody that's willing to do it, that's why we would have to have a special board meeting. If we did it right now, we could get it out in the paper not this coming Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday. They'd have to have a week, probably right after that comes out after the week, and I would contact certain vendors that I want to make sure are aware of it. And those are, then we'd have to, once we get that, we'd have to pick 3 of them, I would guess, and have them present at a special board meeting on, so that there's an opportunity for the board members to ask what they would do for us, what they could offer us, what it would cost us, what they would do for possibly no charge, and, unless the levy passes, or, the project passes. It's just, we're on a tight, I tell you, this is a tight timeline. And my concern, I would just tell you, is I don't want to lose the opportunity for that first question. I would hate to move that back a year.
But you could put out an RFP within a week, you said, it's gonna be.
I could get it in the paper, it's gotta be, remember, last year we talked about possibly doing things through the internet or through the web, but it's, we use our paper and we're ready to make that move. Because of that, now I do need to put it in the paper. I think a week's a short turnaround, but I'm guessing people are, if they knew it was gonna be this type of project, they would come to us with a proposal.
So if it didn't work out, if we didn't get a good proposal on that, we still could go ahead with the technology.
Yes,
and drop it.
nope, that's
Even though
correct.
we put that RFP
We
out.
don't lose a lot, I think we want to be completely, we could have done, and I did discuss this a little bit on a one-to-one basis with board members before I decided, no, it's not a good idea. We could have done it in this paper. The problem would have been is that now all of a sudden you get an RFP coming out with the people not knowing. They know that you're just talking about this. Now all of a sudden you get an RFP out. We want to make very clear with the community that this is just something we're looking at. We have to do this because of timing. Otherwise, they will assume
That we've already made the decision.
that we've already made the decision and this is what we're going to do and we're going to move forward with it. And we have to be very careful with that if we're going to go out on that road.
I felt our task as a facility committee was to get everything on the table. This is just part of what came up in our process. And even though we had things that delayed us and slowed us down, we just felt that we really need to look at it. There was discussion of, what do we want our school to look like 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road?
And this group that brought this project forward is not a small group, and they're very vocal, very.
Let's give it a go.
Um,
Is there a downside to doing an RFP?
Well, there's no downside, other than the PR piece with the community, making sure that the community understands that just because we're doing it doesn't mean we've decided that this is what we're going to do.
Sure.
That they understand it's because of the timing.
We wanted to make sure that we had this meeting and this conversation before the RFP. Because everybody knows that means, or would think, that means you've already decided on a.
No, I understand that, but there is really no downside.
There's no cost or anything else other than the ad in the papers.
No,
That was my
And maybe
place.
we have to have.
have to
You'd
explain.
you'd have to have I would suggest you have a special board meeting if you do that. The 18th is when it would come out. The 25th would be the week next Wednesday. 26th would probably be what I would suggest, that you'd bring them in and let them give you your presentation. And again, we have members of the facility committee here too, so if there's other things too, bring them up.
Can you mention that in the ad, that it's a quick turnaround?
I would call, we put an ad in the paper, and I'd make calls to some specific groups.
That's the one thing we need action on tonight.
I would need I think if there's any hope at all here, on getting at least any second question on there, I would need the board to direct me to go ahead and do an RFP.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that put a lot of time and effort into that so far, and it's the buzz around the community that this is something that there is a group of people that are pushing. I just wish there was a little bit more time. I hate making decisions on the fly. And for me, I'd be the person to vote yes for it. I think it's a great thing for the community. It's gonna bring families into this community. We're talking about the downtown surviving and stuff like that. These are the things that bring people into this community. And it would be a great thing.
The option is to go with the one question this year and bring the other question at another year. There's negatives to that part too.
That was discussed at
Yeah.
the facility
Yep.
too, because then you're, instead of telling the community what you really want, what you think you need, then the very next year, oh, we forgot this, we also really want and really need this. And how many times do we do that to the community?
I mean, that's a valid point, Mark, at least my perspective. If you go too fast, it's an issue. If you move it, there's some issues to it also. So,
The going too fast, I would say, is all of our concern, but we got into, our meetings were running a couple hours, maybe 2.5 hours long a lot of times.
much longer than I told them it would
We
be.
had lots of discussion, and we talked about the
Yeah, we're gonna
different
have that or something.
things with 2 votes, and just, we're at a loss. But we need to kind of just decide what to do. Go ahead, Dick. I'll take Dick.
Well, if I may make a couple comments. One, I think I personally feel, and I think everybody on the committee feels, that this technology piece is really important. I mean, we need to educate our kids to the utmost. I mean, technology is going to drive things down the road, so that's, just like the superintendent mentioned, we gotta go for that. Then a little different comment on the vans. I appreciate your, paying for them for 10 years, but now we are running them 12 years with no major repairs at this point. And the types of miles that are being put on them are good miles. So if you run even 200,000 miles, these vehicles should do that. So I appreciate the concern over the time period, but I think the vehicles today will do it with no problem.
There are no Pontiacs.
I know. Can't do everything. Then my third comment is just on the community center. I think that's the term we want to call it because it relates to the whole community. And it is for the community. It's to enhance the education and use for the students. But there's a piece for the community to use. And I think you made the comment that this will help draw people to our community. I mean, yeah, the school and the hospital are the biggest assets that this community has. And part of it is maybe a little bit keeping up with New London, Spicer, Eden Valley, etc. But I think it would enhance the school system and the community. So I think even with the real short timeline, we talked about that a lot. But I think we've got to drive forward and try for it.
If I don't do with the RFP now, I'd say the chances is non-existent that we're gonna meet deadlines.
And I'll just say, no one on the committee was against either of these pieces.
Major discussions on time. Max?
Yeah, it's not fair for me because this is something that I've been kind of working on for 3 years, so I don't really understand how you guys feel at the same time, because I feel like, man, this is something that's been in the works for a long time. With that being said, a decision to do an RFP tonight is not a decision that this is going to be on the ballot. It's a decision to move forward at really zero risk to the district, to be able to exhaust all options. I had a conversation with Bob, and to me it doesn't mean that we're not doing the work necessary or the due diligence. It just means a lot of work in a smaller time frame, you know, and so it's the same amount of work in a shorter period. But with that being said, there's not a lot of risk to go out and do an RFP except for our time of meetings and listening to companies. But if it's something that we feel the community is interested in, then I think we owe it to them to at least exhaust ourselves in that manner.
If the board directs me to do that, then I'm going to recommend that we have a special board meeting on the 26th.
Okay, do we should probably entertain a motion for an RFP?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mark, seconded by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.
And just keep moving, we'll bring time frames and stuff out, but if we do that, it just means that everything's going to move much faster if that's the decision of the board in the end. All right, there will be some pressure.
One gentleman we did talk to that was from a company said the information that goes to state is somewhat general in what you have. So some of the actual details we will have time to work with. We need to be able to get ourselves there, have breathing room, figure it out. I can't say that the committee has actually figured out how to make this work and what can be incorporated for everybody, because we don't have any way to start it even.
And
so
I can't emphasize enough the importance of community meetings to have discussions about this. So those will have to be worked in there also.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Now, do we want to authorize the first part of it? We've authorized an RFP, but
I think I would, I mean, number one, you have some time for that first piece. All right, so at the next meeting, because remember, if everything else falls apart and we're just gonna go for that first question, I don't have to do a review and comment, I don't have to do any of those things. We have to meet the timelines for our questions, getting those developed. So I think that gives the community a chance to make comments to the board. I think we ought to think about, regardless, setting a date for a community to just listen to what they have to say. You know, and I'm not seeing the newspaper here, but I'm assuming Mike will be talking to me tomorrow. So I'm assuming there will be an article concerning that one way or another, whether I write it or whether it comes through Mike. Because we have to start, we need to start boarding down all the pieces that we're talking about. We need to make sure that the community knows all those pieces. Give them a chance to voice their opinion and comments.
Our committee talked a little bit about maybe trying to hold a public meeting for the same questions all of you have. You never saw a plan, we don't have any idea, we're kind of doing this off the top, and until we have somebody to work with, we can't come up with that data. So, but as Bob said, it needs to go fairly quickly. Any other thoughts on this topic?
I'm going to make the change on the technology piece.
I guess my only comment with the rest of the stuff, with the actual project, would be, I just don't want to cut it too short. I mean, we're looking at only $1.6 million for the entire 2 buildings. When I know that there's probably a lot more other things that we could potentially be doing.
So put it back?
Well, no, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just
Well,
$1.6 million and we're still not going to be where we need to be. I guess that's my only
Yeah,
comment.
for 400,000, so we're for the.
Well, and we'll get some more information on the windows, and we'll do some more discussion. I know that our group is going to meet one more time. I think on, what's the next day?
You had 2 days.
You have 2 dates. The 23rd, so we'll be meeting again to discuss it. And that'll be before the next board meeting. So, or no, after, I guess. It's our next one on 22nd. 24th is 24th. So that timing will work fine.
Other comments from anybody? Here. Do I see some?
No,
No, nothing, good. Now's the time. Okay, anything from the public on any of these? Okay, now we're gonna move forward to personnel. Number 1, review and consider approval of the following staff for the Paynesville area summer morning targeted services program. Charlene Strand, Jennifer Wurz, Kim Jones, and Sue Teicher.
This is the run through target services. We do this every time this year.
Okay, we have a motion by Deb, second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, review and consider approval of a 2-year agreement with Matt Dickhausen, Community Education and Fitness Center Director. Everybody had that in their package.
Yeah, the change is a pretty easy one. It really just adds health insurance to Matt. At the expense of him reducing his salary by $3,000, which with FICA and those types of things would be a reduction to the district of $3,241.59. It is a 7.02. I will tell you that most community ed directors that are full-time for districts do get their health insurance paid for. It wouldn't cover it. There would be no increase. There's a small increase just because of FICA increases for the current school, the year that we just finished, the 13-14 school year. This would go into effect of the 14-15 school year, so for next year.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Deb, I have a second by Cheryl. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. For and nothing against anybody here in this room, but I guess whenever we bring in insurance into a contract, I think we've always been trying to, of all groups, to keep consistencies to contracts. And I know the principals and the superintendent have pretty good health reimbursement. at what level are we gonna go down to the next level of administrators? Because I guess I don't look at Donnie and Max any different than Matt. So then, are we willing to give that same benefit to them? That's my only question. Well, no, it's up to us as a board to make policies and making sure that everything is consistent so that we're not messing with this person or that person. And I know that individually that you go in there, but I know the principals go in there kind of as a group and so on and so forth. I just like consistency. I don't like this, one person gets this, one person that does that for the same job, kind of. I know there are different funds, I know they're coming from different areas, different job requirements and so on and so forth, but administration-wise, they're all expected to do a lot. Don't, I mean, I.
So which one do you want to,
You know,
they're all at different levels, so which one do you want to put everybody at?
well, right now, I think we have the principals at a level, and we have, now we have Matt at a different level, and then we have the other two gentlemen at a different level.
Yeah, the contract would put Matt at a maximum of 10,000. That would go into the contract. And the other ones are different levels. All of those people that Mark's talking about have a different level. They do get some health insurance. Matt does not get any, at least at this particular point.
So, and I know at one time we did have it in the contract, and for whatever reasons, it was negotiated out, and now it's being brought back, and I think as anytime that you bring in more insurance and stuff like that, my first thing I perks up is just, why are we doing it? Are we being consistent with other groups? Is there anything else that we should be or shouldn't be doing, I guess? That would be my only question.
Yeah, I guess I would say, I mean, it was negotiated, I had Matt here, he took a reduction in salary in order to accommodate the percentage, you know, to keep that in line with everything else, and I don't know if it's, you know, imperative that we have consistencies. I think that's kind of, you know, a natural thing in all industries, that certain people have different fringe benefits, so I don't think that that's.
Not at the same level. If you're an administrator, you're an administrator, whether you're wherever, those guys all get basically pretty much the same.
But it's all-negotiable, and it seemed like a fair, way to get.
Oh, I'm not talking about fair, I'm just talking about consistency of the contracts when I know Bob stands there every time at negotiation, that we want consistencies and everything else, to keep everybody at a level. We're talking about expenses, that we're running deficit spending and so on and so forth, and like I said, that's my only concern about the way that this is all coming out, so. There, it's in my 2 cents.
Any other discussion? I would chime in exactly what Dave said. We as a committee struggled with it for a long time. That's where the $3,000 salary reduction came, because at one point in time, and Bob dug out the history on it, it was negotiated out.
But that's 3,000 versus the 10.
Capped.
But it's still 10.
The actual cost isn't 10, and that's what I could go up to cover that, so that's not the actual increase, so.
But
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. We have discussion. If there's no further discussion, I think this should be a voice vote. So, go ahead.
All right, Ella? Aye. Mark?
May.
Deb?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. One dissenting vote from Mark Dingman. Okay, next item on personnel is going to be review and consider approval of a 2-year agreement with District 741 Principals Association.
Main things with this particular one is that we do change to a step type of system with our administrators. There is a $10 increase for the phone. But the next piece really is, there's some changes in it, but it really goes to the very end of the contract where it has the piece about, let's see, I want to, couple things, I don't want to get through all of it. One was on page 5, which it just says for 2013-14 school year, it'd be $50 for the phones, okay, $10 increase, okay, from 40. And then on page 8, it talks about giving them a fitness center membership just for themselves, not their family. And it's really built on the same language that the teachers, piece that we gave the teachers. And then you get to the very last page, and it does put them on a step system. Right now, the teachers are on a step system that allows them to get steps down at increments. Each one of those increments is about 3% increase. And then they can also get lanes to the right. The principals would have an option, but you are in essence kind of setting the cap for the principals on this. Right now, for this year, or for the 13-14 school year, Lori would make one step. All right? And then she would get just a stipend for the second step, or for the second year. And it'd be a $620 stipend. It's based on the 500 that the teachers got, only prorated because more days. Teachers work 184 days, principals work 228 days. That's how we came up with the 620 versus the 500. For Dave, it's 2 steps. Now, I'll talk again today again for the next contract. For Dave to get to the top, he would take 2 more steps, and then he would be at the top of that contract. And truly, the idea is that once they get there, then we're much based on where the teachers are at the top. They're at the top. If the teachers were to get something at the top, then certainly the principals would come forward and ask for the same type of thing. But that's the intent, is to set a cap for the principals. And also get them to that cap using the same mechanism that the teachers currently use. For this particular piece, it would be a 4.87 increase over the 2 years. Teachers settled in at 5.74.
We have a motion to approve from David.
Second.
We have a second from Deb. Do we have any further discussion? No further discussion. We should probably do a roll call on this also.
We did on the last one, but
Yeah,
do it on
let's
this
keep it
one.
going. We got a bunch of these.
All right, Mark?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye.
Okay, passed. Next is building and grounds. Review and consider approval of 2-year agreement with Donnie Mayer, Buildings and Grounds Supervisor. It's Exhibit H.
Yep, if you go to the last page, there was an addition of career increments. Okay, and it's got that language down there, and the language itself is built very much off the teacher's language. That means that 20 years you get $1,000, and then 25, 1250, 30, and this is a one-time shot. So it's not you get there and you get it every year. This is you get there, you get it one time. Now, he is at 21 years, but we did give him one increment. We gave him the 20-year increment. The next time he would get another increment would be at 25 years. All right, for the salary, you can see the difference. 2013 to 14, he'd be going from 49,735 to 50,481.03, and for 415, it'd be go up to 51,490.65. It'd be a 3.28% increase.
Motion from Kella,
Second.
a second from Deb. Any further discussion? No further discussion, we'll call for a vote.
Deb?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. Mark?
Passed. Okay, the next one is review and consider approval of a 2-year agreement with Max Maher, Activities Director.
Now, he's always been called an activities coordinator. This does change contract to activities director. He really is incorporating not only athletics but other events. So one of the pieces is he really is at least in my opinion, he is an activities director, not a coordinator. The biggest piece that again happens with him is on the last page, or second to last page. And what's happened is that in order to get him, and we did check with various full-time ADs in the area. Believe me, he is on the low end of those salary scales. He, certainly in our conference, he is at the bottom. So in order to come up, we have worked a schedule in place that gives him steps and 1 lane. The lane would be a master's. Now, most of the language that is in here is really based on how the teachers get their steps and how the teachers get their lanes. And it talks about the fact that he has to have all the steps and lanes approved by me. And if he's going to go for his master's, that has to be in a field that's appropriate. You know, that works for the activities director, that type of thing. And that's got to be approved by the superintendent. All right, so that's what most of the language is. Right now, he's currently, I think, on, what step? I think he's currently on step 3. Okay, he would move step 4 and he would move step 5 in this particular contract. No other additions other than that. Now, it is a little bit of a higher percentage, but again, I do think he is on the low end of that, and it'd be a 6.26% increase. And it does give him a chance to get up there. Now, in order to make the other jumps, he's got to go there. And in addition to that, we have worked with Lori, and there's additional responsibilities also coming this way. That's been a discussion with Lori and I about the importance of getting Lori into the classroom more and having him also take on more responsibilities in addition to what he's got right now.
I have a motion from Deb.
I'll second.
I have a second from David. Any further discussion? Linda?
Dave?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Helen? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
And also, just keep in mind, once he gets to the top of the bottom of the steps, then very much like the principals, he's kind of to set that, and we'd have to look at that again. Right.
Okay, it passed. Number 6, a review and consider approval of a 2-year agreement with support staff.
Okay, on the support staff piece, there's a few other changes. If you look at page 3, there was just some language that was dropped because of van drivers. Just didn't function anymore, so that was dropped on page 3. You can't see it because you don't have the change, but that was one change that was in there. On page 4, bereavement up to 5 days of leave, we added some language, we dropped some language. The language we dropped was the specific amount of leave allowed is subject to the discretion of the superintendent, depending on circumstances. It was changed to, if extenuating circumstances occur, additional time may be requested by the superintendent. It still does what we needed to do and matches some of the other contract language. If you go to page 7, on the very top, we added the fact that Kel Anderson and Jennifer, their community education program coordinator positions, so they do work out of the community ed piece, and we just added that language. The same would be true on page 8, at the bottom of section 5, because it addresses the same 2 employees. We just added again that they're community education program coordinator positions. Or, got it, community ed position, sorry, yes, yes. So we just wanted to clarify that a little bit. Then if you look on page 9, we did change the amounts that are in there. And we went from 750 to 875, from 1,000 to 1,125. This is the amount of compensation for the career increment pay. Again, this is one time, they only get this on their anniversary date. 30 years would be 13,750 or 75. 35 years would be 1625, and 40 years would be 1875 from 1750. It does match kind of the teacher's career increments on that. All right. Then on page 10, we did get rid of some language that just hired before a certain date that doesn't apply. That in essence, it would say anybody hired in order to get the benefit of retirement, you have to be hired before that date. That was removed. So people that are here long enough that qualify would get the retirement piece. At the end of section 2, it did say as indicated by the employee's assignment, and now it's changed to by the total number of work days, assigned days minus holidays and vacation days. Just clarifies that so that people know how they get that number. Then on section 4, we did add something for the payment. We added for all health, for all staff who are eligible for severance payments in this section, 100% will be paid to a post-retirement health care savings. That's so that they don't have to pay the taxes on it. No harm to the district, it's just that's where we're going to pay that. Okay. We did give them 10 cents the first year, 15 cents the second year, but they had gotten the stipend and we did keep the stipend in place. So it does come to a 3.95% increase.
Do we have any discussion?
I was wondering, where do the fitness center employees fit into this schedule, or any schedule?
They don't, they run out of the community ed themselves.
Yeah, it's
They're-
a part-time,
yeah.
so it's not on the,
They're not contracted. Community ed sets the wages for them, much like we set the wages for our
Well,
sub position.
we request the
We-
wages to the
yes.
board, and then the
Yeah.
board.
You approve them. But example, if we came to you with sub pays, if we wanted to change something there, I'd come to the board and say we need to change from this to this. Matt would do it very similarly.
So the subs are pretty much run the same way?
Yes. Yeah, because the board sets the amount, but we come to the board and say, you know, in fact, you might see it again because our sub pays are less than a lot of the surrounding districts, so you're probably going to hear me come to the board and say we might want to increase this a little bit so that we can actually get them.
I think I remember us doing that not too long after
Yes,
you came
we did.
into the.
It was the first year.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Deb,
Second.
second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? Okay.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Carolyn? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Dave?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye. Okay, review and consider approval of resignation for Connie Keller, administrative assistant effective June 30th, 2014.
Connie has done an exceptional job for us. Was she here when the building was built?
No, she wasn't, but.
No, mean that as a but she has been here a long time.
She's
That's
been
meant as
here
a
a long
compliment.
time.
Connie, it was meant as a compliment if you're watching this. So do you know how many years?
36.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's quite an accomplishment
36 years.
in the district. So our hats off to her and we wish her nothing but the best. She's done an outstanding job.
So, I have a motion by David, a second by Kella. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Review and consider approval of resignation for Sheila Cash, paraprofessional, effective May 30th of 2014.
Paraprofessional has resigned her position.
So moved.
I have a motion from Deb,
Second.
a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Review and consider approval of Cal Anderson, special education summer van driver.
Need them for special ed, we need them for van driving.
So moved.
I have a motion from Deb.
Second.
I have a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Informational reports, I don't see
He,
the,
some personal came up and he could not make it, so he'll try to get you at the next board meeting and, Bill board it.
okay, and then the secondary principals report.
Well, I'd like to thank you in behalf of both Dave and I for our contract. We've both really truly enjoyed working with our students here at Paynesville and our staff and for you, so we do very much appreciate it. Going on at the high school, our students and staff finished off the year very strong, even with a few extra days. The staff did finish with an in-service and really felt it was time well spent. We did some conversations with the eye observation, learning some of the different things with that as they finished out the year with their peer observations in this building. We also gave them time to work on their websites to upgrade and use some different tools that are out there. So a lot of, we will probably be seeing a lot of upgraded websites out there next year because the students are really starting to use them as well. And then transferring files, because we have a couple servers that are going to be put out of commission this summer by Jim. We wanted to make sure that they got everything over to Google and all of that, so we don't lose anything over the summer. Graduation went very well. Our grads left feeling very proud of their accomplishments and their time and their experiences here. It was fun to see them walk out the door, but also a little sad as well. But we'll have some new 5th graders turning into 6th graders, so it'll be fun to see them come in the doors in the fall. We just sent our final grades out to students, and with the grades, the MCAs, I just realized, is this on? I don't know if it's on, I think it's on. The MCAs went out as well, and overall, the preliminary scores as a group, they look very good. We will be looking at those through the summer, and we'll get the final school results later this fall, but individually, parents will be able to see how their students fared, and overall, they look very good. We've also, actually I think this is the earliest, we have been able to complete all our seniors' final transcripts, and we are starting to get those out to schools as they request them. So it's been very nice to be ahead of the game instead of kind of trying to chase, as the calls come in. So that's been good. And I think we're finishing up the end of this year, and Annette and I have started to put in schedules as far as classes, etc., because we finalized those the last week of school, meeting with individual students and getting their schedules worked out and answering questions from parents that have had them and they've called in. So we're starting to get those inputted, and we'll be ready for the fall and starting the new year.
Project Lead the Way, could you just give us an update?
That actually is what's coming next on my plate. That's this week's. I will be connecting with the businesses that we met with earlier this year, because we had talked that it would be the 1st of July. I would be connecting with them, and hopefully they would be able to donate to our program. Some of them have already sent their donations. Others, I had connected with them and talked to them about July 1st. I'm hoping also to have another meeting with some other businesses in July. We got kind of busy at the end of the year, so I'm going to look out to some other businesses, and at that point, hopefully in the 1st of August, start putting together our board. We'll need kind of a community or collaborative board between business and the school, so at that time I'll start putting that board together. I've had a few business owners already put out there, I'd like to be on that, and I think that's great. But I'll be sending personal invites to see who would like to join us with that as well. Our teachers are signed up for training. We signed the official Project Lead the Way agreement. Bob is our chief executive of the district, so he got to sign off on that as well. And both I did get verifying emails today both Jesse and Mike are signed up for the coursework in July. So we're set to go there, and then the next piece is looking at the actual equipment orders that we'll need to purchase for the program. I have some meetings set up with teachers that are currently teaching the programs, because I'd like to get their feel for equipment, if they've had some that works great, some that they didn't need, some different things like that, or modifications in that regard. So biggest piece is the Chromebooks, what do they need versus the laptops, et cetera, for the class. So, any other questions that you might have?
Yeah, I just have a couple, because I must have missed something somewhere. But the ninth grade that you're starting
Yes.
with Mr. Rasmussen, correct?
No, Mr. Rasmussen's is the advanced biology, which is an
So
11th
what are
to
the
12th
two
grade.
classes then?
We're doing
Seventh grade?
drafting and design in the 7th grade, so part 1 or phase 1 in the 7th grade, and then it's 11th grade, it's what was our old advanced biology, which is going to be the Project Lead the Way biomedical program, and that will be for 11th and 12th graders.
And
And that will
college-
give them
college
college
credit.
credit. Phase 2 then is the 8th grade robotics, and then the 9th grade engineering. And that 9th grade course would also be a college credited course. So that's that phase 2 piece.
Okay,
Okay? All right, any other questions?
anybody?
And I will truly miss Connie. She's been my right hand all the years I have been here. So that'll be a tough spot to fill.
Thank you. Now we have the community education report.
All right, I too thank you for your support, especially with the health insurance. That'd be a big thing for us. Summer's in full swing. The weather has been very good this week, especially for many of our programs. So for example, tonight we have every field over here, including the track, used except the Southwest softball field. We're also over at the community park, so we're glad to always get those first few dates in before we have to cancel. I want to thank Larry too, he's not still here, but that'll be a great addition, that elementary, the dugouts over there. That field's really come in handy this year. With losing the varsity field's a big deal for us. We play everything from Little League to 7th and 8th grade. We play a lot of games on that field, so we're glad to have that field even now, but to have it upgraded will be really nice. That'll be a real benefit.
I just had a question, is that technically correct, the correct size for a baseball diamond?
Yeah, our bases can move from 60 to 90 there, and the mound is correct for baseball.
Okay.
Yep. So they play softball on it too, and we play rookie ball, and then we move those bases in. So that's where Max, I think they play a lot of 9th grade games there too. They had to this year, 7th and 8th grade games.
I was just curious.
Our 5-week concert series starts next Thursday, so join us for that this summer. Quite a few new acts this year. Our pause program, and our registrations are coming in. We're going to do even more pushes for that. And a project or a goal I have is with the BNC TV and some of that, I'd like to do a highlight video kind of our district, what sets us apart. So as board members, even little quick interviews or little snippets or ideas, if you guys wouldn't mind sending me, ideas of how you want that to look. I want to develop a storyboard and then kind of go from there. So kind of highlighting our activities, our philosophies, our kind of like a quick commercial we can put on our site to just highlight, why choose here, why look into us more. So things that you can think of or ideas, just send that to me. I'd like to get, once the school year gets back, more teachers involved too, so get some representation of the elementary teachers, principals, and that kind of stuff. So, any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is going to be Max. 2 times in one meeting, wow. You get a little exercise.
We'll be a little shorter this time.
Thank you
guys heard about the conference changes, and obviously the district football placement stuff came out, so that'll be coming up on Thursday. I just actually measured up today all the different spots for the cutouts for new gym padding in the high school gymnasium, so that stuff is gonna be replaced. That was on the 5-year capital plan, as well as we really have a goal and hopes with that money in the capital plan to be able to sprinkle all of the, Bob talked about JV baseball, will actually be where our 7th and 8th graders play softball as well. All the fields, then all the athletic fields will be sprinkled from the golf course to the softball fields, at least the competitive surface as well. And I'm not sure,
Little League, everything plays on
Oh, yeah.
those fields.
so they're utilized throughout the summer and all those months. There's a portion of that that's not sprinkled right now. We're working right now on some purchase order and quote stuff for girls' basketball uniforms. Normally I wouldn't tell you about a uniform purchase or something, but that will actually, girls' basketball gets those uniforms. Every sport except for wrestling will have gotten complete sets of uniforms since I've been here. And we haven't used any general fund dollars to do that. So we're pretty excited about that, and wrestling has gotten a half set. No one wants to change the tradition of those pinstripes, I guess, so they just, replace as they need, but we're pretty excited about that. So we're just in the middle of summer mode, getting ready. It's hard to believe that right around the corner will be August again. We'll be back at it. But any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're at our superintendent's administrative report.
Well, you've heard most of everything with the facility and things, so you're well aware of that now. Just a couple of other pieces. If you haven't taken a look at that stadium project, we'll take a look. It's starting to look pretty impressive. It's just going to be a wonderful addition to our community. I truly believe that. So if you haven't taken a look, please take a look. A couple things. One is that we still have the bus contract. It was a 1-year contract. I have certainly talked to the board members about my frustrations about not being able to tell where we are with that bus contract, whether it's fair, whether it's not fair for one side or the other. Having said that, I have been in contact with an individual that helped Ricori negotiate a contract and kind of do an evaluation of where they're at. I'm not necessarily going to come back to the board for this unless you want me to come back, but I have been in discussion with them. Anywhere we bring it between 1,800 and 2,500. I talked to the bus company about it because that's part of it in the contract about working together, and they're okay with the individual that I'm looking at, but I would like to have that person do an evaluation of where we're at with our contract. It could work out that things are just fine, that we're kind of where we're supposed to be. It could work out that we're on the low end and not paying them enough, or it could work out the other way also. But I do really want to get a grasp on where we are in comparison to what we should be for that transportation contract. So if you have any strong feelings with that, get a hold of me. It doesn't have to be right here, but I'm going to move forward along those lines unless the board has an issue with that in some manner. So just be aware. Then the other part is the strategic planning. I have been in contact, and I'm going to have a visit with probably 1 or 2 people that help districts with strategic planning. Greg Rundell has done some work for us in the past. I think the board has been happy with the work that he's done. I'm going to talk with him tomorrow just to get his thoughts and cost. And I think it was Big River that helped the district the last time. I'm not sure what the board has any feelings on that. If you do, please give me a call. But I'd like to talk to a couple of groups that do that type of thing. By having somebody help with that, it also allows the superintendent to be involved in the process rather than run the process. And I think, from my perspective, it's important that I'm involved in the process, not just held back by running it. I have no idea about costs or anything else. I'll certainly inform the board as we go down that road. But that'd be another thing that will start to get going. Questions on the part of the board?
Any questions? No questions? Any other sharing of the board? No other sharing of the board? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Deb, second by Cheryl. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.